How are you? Welcome to my first client convo. I just wanted to bring you in. We're going to wait a minute. Today I'm going to be talking with Abby. She is a client that I have been working with, and we were just excited to hop on and share with you her story and a little bit about what it's like working with me as a coach, and just what the process looks like for somebody who is successfully doing that. So let me bring Abby on. Coming on. So just for your information, I am taking one-on-one clients right now, and then I will be having some specials come up as the holidays roll around. And in 2024, I'm also building a foundations membership where once you've worked on with your health foundations one-on-one with me, you can get continued support in that membership. So let's see here. Abby has requested to join, and I hit accept. So let me make sure that's going through. The big thing that I am working with people on right now is really just getting their health foundations in order, because what we're finding is that there's a lot of information out there, but the application process is very challenging when you're in an information overload. So that's actually one of the topics that we're going to be discussing today. Let's see here. There we go. Let's try this. Sometimes Instagram can be a little glitchy, so just have to give it a minute to bring Abby on. Here she is.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hi. I'm really proud of myself that I figured out how to join.
Yay!
Yes.
And it's interesting too, because I find that when I try new features on Instagram, it's not always the same as the way that I did it before. So
yeah.
Welcome. Thank you for joining.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, so do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and then share how we met?
Sure. So my name is Abby, and I live in California, and in Northern California. And it's kind of one of those funny Instagram things where I'm not exactly sure how I found you. I follow, which is actually part of my health story, I follow a lot of different health-focused Instagram profiles, and I found you and watched you for a long time, and then just connected with you that way. And I'm very grateful that I did, for sure.
I love it. So this client convo was actually Abby's idea.
Yes.
She was saying that how we should hop on and chat. So Abby, why? Tell me more about why you wanted to go live with me.
Well, I think my heart truly, I think that there are other people that have experienced the same, types of things as I have, in terms of feeling like really overloaded with information. And I am an information seeker, and I love health, and I want to be healthy, and have had some health challenges. And so I really just felt like I was seeking all of this information and not really knowing how to navigate it on my own. And so the ability to have someone come alongside of you and narrow that focus and be strategic was an incredible gift. And will continue to be an incredible gift, because you can't get rid of me. So I think that's the biggest thing, is I know just from talking with so many people that that's a huge issue. We follow all these things and we read all these things, and it honestly becomes overwhelming to the point where you're either doing what I did, which is taking way too many supplements and doing way too many things at the same time, or I've also experienced just feeling like you shut down and it just becomes something you watch or follow and not actually engage with.
So totally. I feel like maybe we've all been there, even I've been there. And then it's just a process of like, oh, I found a pattern that seemed to really work, and then sharing that, and then encouraging other people to follow the pattern. I mean, it needs to be individualized for you, but figuring out what that individualized pattern is, and then supporting you to stay with that pattern.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ruth, we're going to open up questions at the end of our conversation, but she commented, way too many supplements sounds familiar.
Yeah, that really was me. And I would read about something and go, oh, well, I need that, or I have that issue, so I must, need to have that. And even different food plans and, all of that. Like, I just consumed that information and really, really want to be healthy. And health is something that I prioritize, but I think that I prioritized it in the wrong ways. And like you said, in sort of generic ways that didn't apply to my situation. And I work with a primary physician and a naturopath. And so those are more like the specific, like, blood work and all those types of things. But I didn't have anybody at the end of the day that could help me sort through that and say, okay, this is our plan of attack. And I think that was really pivotal for me.
What my favorite part of working with clients is just supporting you to the goals that you have set. And then I find that most people already have the answers inside of them. It's just learning to trust that you know the path you're supposed to take, and then encouraging you to trust that. You can call it intuition. There's different words for it. And then hold true to that.
Right. Absolutely.
So we've been working together since the spring, and then it carries on. What's one or two ahas or revelations like that you've discovered while we've been working together?
Yeah, so I have a lot of them. So I'll try to prioritize what I think might serve people. You are an incredible teacher, which is why I reached out, because you are a wonderful teacher on your Instagram stories and things like that. And as weird as it sounds, the foundations piece was huge to me, and which is really surprising, honestly, because I am such an information seeker. And when you look at it, from this zoom out perspective, you would think, okay, I need to drink water. I need to sleep. I need to do all these things. And those are foundational, and we know them. But to have somebody go through each of those things with you as applied directly to you, and how you are interacting with those foundations, what level, that type of thing. And I realized there was a lot of gaps, even things like electrolytes. I was not drinking electrolytes before, and now I can't live without them. They're right here now. So things like that are really foundational. But again, oftentimes, and I won't speak for everybody, but I feel like this is true, that we read about them and we know them intellectually, but we're not really applying them to their full potential. And because they're foundations, those are things that really, really, really do affect us in very significant ways. So that's the first thing. The other thing I would say is that I didn't realize that it would also include, you wear a lot of hats, Dana, and one of them is just that soul care piece. And I think I cried every time I talked to you. And so just really being able to cue into that piece and recognize, and you asked me some really hard questions, and I will be vulnerable for the sake of, because I think this can really serve people, but I had a very hectic, frenzied schedule that is now much more tailored, and I'm trying to be good to my body and soul. But when I was living in that frenzied schedule, my eating patterns were really wacky, and I would do things like at the end of the day while I'm cooking dinner for my family, there would be, a cookie or whatever it was. And I would say to myself, and you're smiling because you remember this conversation. And I would say, in my internal thoughts were, I have worked really hard today. I'm doing all this for my family, and I'm sure I got enough steps in, so I'm going to have the darn cookie because I deserve it. And I'm telling you this and teary-eyed, and you looked at me and you said, well, why do you think that food is a reward for you? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Let's look at that. So just those hard questions that I think need to be asked and sort of restructure, the way that we're thinking about things. I didn't know that was going to be a part of it, and I really appreciated that a lot.
You're so welcome. It's such an honor to work with you. I love working with Abby because she's so engaged in the process. And that actually reminds me of a pop question, because of course we prepared a little bit for this conversation, but I mean, what does health look like for you? Like, what are you looking to achieve in your health? Like, what does success look like for you?
Yeah. So I think before I worked with you, success would have looked like, okay, I am eating healthy, I'm engaging in healthy habits, and I look and feel the way that I want to. And that really got very much turned upside down for me. And I'm grateful for that, because it is more about looking at those foundations and saying, what am I incorporating? And then the strategic part of it, my fitness plan is a perfect example. That's just one of the layers, but a byproduct for me that really taught me a lot, that the way that you approach things is to teach us about, food and how we interact with that. Food is just one of the layers, but let's use that as the easiest example. And doing my macros and, and blood sugar, stabilization is a big thing for me. And so I had all of your flyers on the, your what would you call them? Not how-tos, but guides.
Yeah. Guides. Support, kind of support guides.
Yes, which I need. And so I hung them right on my fridge, and I would learn, okay, well, we're talking about glycemic index. So what is a low glycemic index food, and how is that going to affect my body? And really going back to those foundational pieces, which if you would have asked me before, if I knew, I would have been like, oh yeah, my problem is I know too much. Yeah. And that actually was not true. So.
I do think that I would give you more credit than not true. I do think that you came to the table with a lot of information, and that made some of your process a little smoother because you had a basic understanding of just even physiology. So so much of our breakthrough is experiential. So it's we can know so much, but until we actually engage the process at the level of the details, it's just that aha of not all numbers are the same. They have different qualities to them. Somebody else's experience or path isn't going to be the same as mine. And so until I'm experiencing it for myself, then I may not actually be getting the results exactly that I want. And when I say results, a lot of people think numbers, but I'm talking fulfilled, meaningful, joy, energy, some of those intangible measurements.
Absolutely. I had this experience when I was working with you that is a perfect example of what you just said, where, as you know, I was going on a big anniversary trip to Italy, and it was coming at the end of when you and I were first working together, and I was like, I don't want to lose all my progress. And of course I can't drink wine and eat bread and eat pasta like people, do when they travel to Italy, of all places. And just that conversation with you about how to restructure my thought process about that. And I was able to do things like be strategic and have my protein and fat first before I'm, having a carb and things like that, and be thoughtful about it, but not in a, no, Abby, you're not allowed to do this, restrict yourself sort of way. There was a lot of freedom that came with that knowledge, which is really counterintuitive. You would think that, oh, I'm going to learn these things and it's going to provide this structure and framework that I have to live within, which is the opposite. It's like you learn these things and it gives you freedom to be able to approach it in a healthy way.
Yeah, that's so good. It reminds me, Abby was encouraging me to put a post out about choosing or cheating and what that looks like. So coming soon.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to add before we open up for questions?
Let me look at my Dana notes.
Okay.
See if there's anything. No, I don't think so.
Okay, so opening it up for the people attending, and I'm not sure, I can't really tell how many people are on or not, but giving it a few minutes for anybody that wants to ask a question.
Okay.
And just circling back, Ruth commented, eat to live, not live to eat, when you were mentioning about like reward versus, I don't even know what we would call it at this point, but why I'm choosing this kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And then also, just to fill the gap, I am so honored that Abby would hop on, and like that's one of my favorite parts about working with clients is my clients and we become like friends as well. There's a connection piece that is just really sacred in being able to connect over things that really matter in life in terms of like health and soul care, your heart, your mind, healing, all of those spaces. There's just something really, really sacred about that.
Right. Absolutely. I agree.
Okay, so question is, how do you say no when that cookie is offered? It's so hard.
Is that a me question or a you question?
I think, well, I mean, you kind of probably in the back of your head hear my voice.
I do. A blessing and a curse, Dana.
I think I would let you go and answer that how you've learned to. It's going to be, what I have also learned is it's individual. We all have approaches that work best for us. So, if I share, Abby shares, there's going to be a need to tweak it because how we've experienced that cookie being offered is different situationally throughout a lifetime. Like maybe somebody was offered a cookie out of celebration, and then somebody else was offered a cookie as a sit down and be quiet because I don't want you to talk right now. Like, right, it comes from experiences about how we engage these resources. A cookie is a resource. So I guess just know that as we're talking about this to our audience, this is a very personalized experience. So how Abby would engage it and I would engage it is different. But that's my job as the coach as well, is to bring that out and then give you the resources to navigate it for yourself.
Yeah. So I really do, you laugh, but I really do hear your voice in my head when things like this happen. And for me, one of the simplest but most powerful pieces was I used to be that kind of person in terms of how I approached health, where let's take a day as an example. If I started my morning off wrong, I would kind of throw everything out the window and go, okay, well, whatever. The day is ruined, right? And you were talking about how breaking up the day into segments, into quarters. And so, you can restart after each quarter, which is such a simple thing and yet very impactful. So I try to think about my day in quarters, and I will literally say, okay, did I have time to make my, eggs mixed with cottage cheese and lots of protein and all of that in the morning? If I grabbed an RX bar, then that means the second quarter of the day, lunchtime, I need to be more intentional about that. And I think about my day that way. And when it comes to things like a cookie, So we had house church last night. I host it. I make all of those, you know, all the goodies for everybody. And I had many awesome quarters yesterday. And so last night when I was, you know, standing with everybody, I picked a small one off the plate, and I had a raspberry chocolate scone that was delightful while I was sitting with everybody, and did not in any way feel guilty about that, because I went, okay, my 4 quarters, my 3 quarters were awesome, and I can, you know, kind of structure it that way. The other pieces, I knew that I had had fat and protein before I had the scone, and you introduced me to the wonderful protein shake that is like, I can't live without. And so I had had that before. So I was like, okay, well, this is a safe thing to have, and it's not going to affect me in a hugely negative way. For me, it's less about weight and more about, you know, metabolically what's happening, as well as my insulin stuff. That's my own personal thing that I'm really trying hard to be good with. And so learning how to stack foods like you taught and things like that. So I I put all of those pieces together in my head before I decide what I'm going to engage with, just like I did in Italy with gelato. Which was awesome, by the way.
I think so. What I hear Abby saying and what I look for when I'm coaching is we really have to restructure, which is a word she used earlier as well, our beliefs around what that food represents. And earlier it represented a reward, a justification, maybe. That's kind of a harsh word, but for all the hard work that she was doing. And so it's the question is like, why would we be feeling happiness or regret over a food, because the belief system behind why we're taking that food is actually what's driving choosing that food. And when you start to take your power back and realize how powerful you are to choose what your rewards are, to choose what your patterns are and your habits are, there's freedom in that behavior. Yeah. And that pattern looks a little bit different. We're not a one size fits all. Right. And so that pattern of what works for each person is what we're looking to uncover, as well as shifting some belief systems about what it really takes to be healthy.
So good.
Any other questions before we wrap up? If you guys want to work with me, I do one-on-one coaching. And then just to recap, I also am building a membership, Foundations membership for 2024. So people do need to work with me one-on-one before they're invited to that membership, because some of these things really require some fine teasing out in detail. And then once you're in that membership, it's like lifetime support. So that's pretty exciting. And then just kind of how Abby found me on Instagram. Some of this stuff, some of people will be able to put into play on their own, which is totally cool. But if not, I'm here for you. And that's pretty much all I think that I have to wrap up. Thank you.
Thank
you so much.
Whoop. That was that's exciting.
I love it because I love to keep things real.
Yes.
And that's part of the process of like doing this properly, is being real and authentic. So I'm so honored, Abby, that you would take your time to do this. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
It's mutual. Okay, I will catch you soon. And for everybody else,